Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Okay, we're back, and it's always a delight to have my good friend with us, David Crowe. He is the founder and president of Restore America, and today we're talking to him about a very important topic, and that is voter registration in the state of Oregon. And let me encourage you to go to restoreamerica.org. It's an incredible resource. In fact, right there on the front page, you'll see the Oregon Project, and he has a lot of the statistics there. And again, I want to remind you, coming up Thursday, there's going to be a special gathering at noon. We'll be using the facility of the First Church of the Nazarene. And pastors, those of you who have received the letter, if you haven't responded, please call the number in that letter and let us know that you're coming, or send a representative from your church. This is very important. In fact, it's extremely important that you find out what you can and can't do when it comes to voter registration in your church. Hi, Dave. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Perry?
Good. You're looking good, man. Looking good. The magic of Skype. Well, here we are, coming down to the final days of registration in the state of Oregon. Give us your thoughts here, friend.
Well, the primary is far more important than people really think.
Yeah.
And as you and I both know, about 40% turnout, and that's about 20%, 25, even 30% lower than it would be in the general election. So when you've got 2 or 3 candidates running for each position, it doesn't take that much of a majority to win. And as a matter of fact, I've done all the research on this over and over and over again to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
But if it's a two-way race in Oregon, say it's for U.S. Senate or for House position, all you need is about 7 to 8% of all the eligible voters to vote, and you'll carry it, you'll win. So if the Christians will awaken and turn out a larger percentage of their voters, that's where you dominate. That's where you put forward good candidates. And you and I both have heard over and over again from people how concerned they are that they don't have much of a good choice.
Right.
In either party, and particularly in the Republican Party, because the choice wasn't made properly in the primary. And so Christians have got to awaken to that fact and register now, because I think it's either the 29th or the 30th. I don't count backwards very many days very well, but I think it's 21 days, it's 3 weeks before the primary, which is on the 20th. So on the 29th or the 30th is your last day to register to vote. And if you don't do that, if you register a day or two late, you're not going to get to vote in the primary. You can vote in the general election, but not in the primary.
Well, you're so right. The primary is by far more important than we care to realize. And in fact, tomorrow, David, I'm moderating the debate between all of the Republican candidates who are vying for Senator Merkley's position in the U.S. Senate. And here's an opportunity to replace somebody who is extremely liberal and is certainly not on the side of life or traditional values whatsoever, and really has done nothing for the state of Oregon, but has been sold out to the left side of all of these issues that are concerning to us, with a good, strong candidate. And so I think there's 5 or 6 of them running, but I think it boils down to 2, and I'll be moderating that tomorrow night. But that's a classic example of how important a primary is.
Well, you're right. And Merkley is a one-term senator, and he's done a few things around the edges to make it kind of look good to the Portland population, but he's not our guy. He is not going to stand up for our values at all. And he hasn't. He's demonstrated that. So we've already got 1 liberal Democrat out of Portland. Why should we have 2? In fact, this is the opportunity for conservatives around the state to rise up and put a conservative in there to run. And as the state wakens itself up here over the next several months, I have no doubt when we start registering these 300,000 who are not registered or not voting, there's 300,000 evangelicals. George Barna says it's 355,000 in Oregon who are eligible to register and vote. And I'm just saying 300,000 will be conservative. But can you imagine that? The governor's race, and I think I mentioned this before, was won by Kitzhaber by 22,000 votes. Didn't need to happen. The Christians were somewhere else, out to lunch, I guess, and figuratively and literally.
All right, let's go back and hit that 300,000 mark. Explain that for those who are hearing it for the first time, because that is just staggering.
Well, nationwide it's 33 million. I mean, that's how many voted, was 33 million. Actually, the last election, this last time, it was only 30 million who turned out. And that's just a killer. When you've got 25 to 30,000 Christians eligible across the country who are not voting, that destroys the nation. Mm-hmm. We're not owning our dependence. And of course, you've heard me use the quote that I use with Abraham Lincoln. It's the duty of nations and of men to own their dependence, own our dependence upon the living God. And we're not doing that. We're just not doing that. We're not owning our dependence upon the power of God. And it really is a one-sided game. If we're really depending like little David was when he went in and chided his brothers for not believing God and going after Goliath. Mm-hmm. David had to do it himself. And that's what God is looking for, is people who will stand up, take ownership, and do what they're supposed to do.
All right, let me ask you this, David. We saw a little bit of a glimpse of hope maybe on that special election in Florida where it was won by a Republican, and clearly the president took that district in his last two elections. Do you think there's a shift, pardon the pun, in the right direction?
Well, I don't know what other people are watching, but that's what I do, is I watch everything that I can that comes over my screen from all the sources that I consider credible. And you can watch it on Fox. You can't really get the news. It's covered up. It's avoided on the other channels. But the anger in this country, the frustration. Robert Knight, you know that name?
Yes.
Washington Times.
Right.
Today he came out with an article that spells it out. And people are frightened, frankly. They're horrified at what's gone on here in the country, and how this guy is ever went beyond a community organizer is beyond all of us now. And it's evident. And his poll numbers are dropping, and people are being affected. They're losing their jobs. If they get a job, it's probably a part-time job for a whole lot less money. Yeah. And when it starts hitting your pocketbook, it makes a big difference. And I don't see him changing course. No matter what is done, he's not going to change course. So he can put a little cosmetic stuff on it and halfway make it look good. But folks, this guy is taking us down the drain. And there are a lot of people working with him to do the same thing. So it's up to us. The only ones that can save this nation are the evangelical Christians who know their God and who will stand up by faith and speak truth. And that's got to happen. And I know some people may find some of the things that I say a little bit abrasive, but something's got to wake people up to the truth. And we're the ones. We have the votes. There's no one else who has the power of the vote like we do. And if God's people are silent, you used a phrase here that when I talked to you last that I thought was, I can't remember it right now, but
silent surrender.
Suicide by, pardon?
The silent surrender.
The silent surrender. And the nation's going to commit suicide. I hate to call it that, but it's just like Germany. People need to get Metaxas' book on Bonhoeffer and read it. It'll just tell you where we're headed, and we're doing so ignorantly and foolishly. And so that's why this is my last trip out to Oregon, as far as I can see. This will be the fourth one in about 9 months. But I'm doing everything I can to call Oregonians and pastors to their leadership responsibility. They need to own it. I'm in Tennessee. I love my state of Oregon. Grew up there. Family goes all the way back to the 1850s. But it's sad to me how the Christians are not registering, not voting. Somehow they're waiting for the rapture. I hope the rapture comes for our sake, for our kids' sake. But I think we're going to go into a lot of trouble before we can count on that. You can't count on that. You don't drop back and punt. you fight all the way to the finish, and that's what it says in Revelation. Stay faithful and stay firm. And part of that is our citizenship responsibility right here. We have it in our hands. Our founders gave it to us. People bled and died for it, and we're tossing it away. And that's a tragedy. And I'm going to do everything I can to appeal, to call, to plead, to appeal to my brethren in the pulpits and in the churches, wherever I go, if they'll let me in, to call us to that voter registration in our churches. It's the natural place.
Right.
There's over 250,000 evangelical churches in this country. There's about 1,000 in Oregon. 1,000. The other side doesn't have that kind of mobilization ability. We do. And we're still short on the signatures for the petition to stop taxpayer-funded abortion. So, where are we? Are we leaving it up to our neighbor, to someone else? We all have to make a commitment to do something, to be active, to make sure we're registered.
All right.
And so all of those things are important.
Let me take a break here, Dave. When we come back, I want you to dispel the myth that this is political and the church shouldn't be involved in it, and how legal it is for a pastor to do this. Also spell out what you're going to do when you're here Thursday. And folks, we can't be involved in this silent surrender. We have, not only is voter registration incredibly important, but now we have this opportunity to stop your tax dollars for paying for 11 abortions in the state of Oregon. Every day, you are paying for 11 abortions. We can stop that by a petition drive. We cannot sit by and call ourselves pro-life and do nothing and do a silent surrender. So I'm going to have Dave kind of give a little bit of a highlight of what he'll be doing Thursday when he's here in Medford at noon, and we'll give you the information on that when we return. Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is my good friend David Crowe. He's the founder and president of Restore America. And folks, you need to go to restoreamerica.org and just look at the incredible resources that are available to you at that website. Support David in his efforts. He's totally faith-supported, and he does this out of the passion of his heart to see things changed in this country. He'll be coming to town Thursday, and this will be trip number 4 to Oregon, and helping churches and pastors and leaders to understand how important it is that we register to vote and that we vote. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I sent out a letter to all you pastors asking you to come to this meeting. And it's free of charge. We're going to feed you lunch. We have somebody that's going to pay for the lunch and give you all of the facts about voter registration in the state of Oregon. And hopefully you're coming. And if you're not, would you call the number in that letter and let the church know that whether you're coming or not, or please send someone from your church. Appoint somebody in your church to be kind of like the civic committee leader or whatever, the community leader in these issues, and come and learn what's going on and get the information that David's going to be sharing with us. And David, it is April 29th, the last day to register. So let me say to our listeners and viewers, if you've changed your name or changed your address, you must re-register to vote. And if you don't know if you're registered to vote, check it out. And then get registered before the 29th of April. And then the ballots come out the 20th, and that's, well, they come out before that, but the actual day is the 20th of May is the primary. And everybody, you're absolutely right, Dave. You and I have been through this drill a gazillion times. Everybody complains in the general election. That's my choice. Well, it could be different if you got involved in the primary, and it's critical. The primary is absolutely critical. So, David, given all that, give us a highlight of what you're going to present on Thursday at lunchtime for us.
Well, this is broken down into about 3 segments. There are 21 slides. First part is about our heritage, our Christian heritage, quotes from our founders, from Washington, Adams, Jefferson, right on down the line, and our presidents all the way up through to Eisenhower, about voting and the necessity of voting. So I lay that out at first to show us how important the vote is. And then what I do is I show the demographics. And the demographics really reveal, they're sobering. People almost gasp when they see these numbers. And I've simplified it, made it as clear as possible. I've done the research, and people need to come and see that. They need to put their eyes on that screen and see what we're doing. And it will make them sick, frankly, that we're not doing our job. And it will motivate people to say, hey, we can make the difference here. People need to be inspired and motivated. And so then there's a strong call to action. And I'm not trying to beat up on anybody. I'm just simply trying to lay the facts out there for us so we can see we can do this. And I just lay it out how we can do it across the state. And it's really not hard. It's not hard. The hard part is getting people to take action, to own it, to own their responsibility themselves. And I would say, Pastor, bring someone with you. Bring one of your board members. Or if you can't come, have two of your board members come. It's always better to have two people put eyes on that screen and go back and give two people a report. Remember Caleb and Joshua. And that's what's needed is someone who catches the vision, can go back and can explain it very simply. And I'm willing to give those slides away. We'll have a sign-up sheet back there. You can scroll those in your church between services or before the service, after the service, so people begin to catch the vision of what's happening and what can happen and what they can do to be part of this. We are citizens. We're not only citizens of heaven, we're citizens of earth. And this is our country. And look what's happening in Crimea. Look what's happening in the Ukraine. And people don't know the history about all of this. But folks, your vote is important. It's absolutely necessary for you to participate as a citizen in this nation. If you're a believer in Jesus Christ, let your light shine. And the way you do that, you don't put it under a bushel by not voting. You let it shine through your ballot, through your votes. There are going to be voter pamphlets that come out, Oregon Family Council. The information, Perry, you share that information. We've just shared a little bit of it right here. But this is a strong call. I'm doing the best I can to call Oregonians to own this. Own the state. Own your dependence upon God. Own what has been given to you, or you're going to lose your rights. You're going to lose your privileges. And it's going to come, folks. If we don't stand up now, we're going to be just like Germany, and it'll be too late. And people are going to die, frankly. It's going to be very, very costly. And people can't even imagine how bad it's going to get unless the Christians in this nation stand up and take it back. So that's my little spiel for you this morning.
That's good. Tell the pastor how legal this is for them to do voter registration.
Well, it's absolutely legal to hold non-partisan voter registration. If you're sold out to one party or the other and you hold voter registration and you tell everybody you want them to vote one way or the other, this party or that, that's wrong. And you're on the wrong side of the law with that. But there is absolutely no law in this country that says we can't hold voter registration in our churches. It's got to be nonpartisan. So you can summarize and have both party pages out there for people to take a look at, 2 or 3 copies if you want to. You don't have to do that. I think it's so important that people register, and then after they register, they sign those petitions. Petitions need to be right there. The body of Christ has done it before. We came up with 250,000, 243,000, I believe, when we needed 150. Now we need 150, and we're not close yet. We're about 40,000, and we've got less than 60 days to get it done. So there needs to be urgency, and there's nothing wrong with holding voter registration in your churches. I'll tell you what's wrong before the eyes of God and his citizens is not to have voter registration in our churches. That's really what's wrong. That's the sin of not being called to be citizens from our pulpits and say, as a Christian, you owe it to your nation, you owe it to everyone to vote, to register and vote your values. That's our freedom. And if we don't do it, we're going to lose it.
All right. Now, the state of Oregon, you said there's about 300,000 are eligible, and if we could get them not only to register but to vote, and I don't want to settle for 10%, but if we got 10 or 20% of that, you can almost sway any primary in the state.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, but like you say, they need to come and see this presentation. It's a full color background presentation with data that's on there that you can take home and you can use it in your sermons. You can make a small announcement from it. You can let it, it'll tell a story if you just scroll right there in your church. Why wouldn't we scroll this before a primary and a general election? Right. There's nothing offensive in it. The only thing that's offensive in it is learning that what we're not doing and what we could be doing to change our state. And frankly, they're not really counting on Oregon to elect a conservative Republican senator. They're not counting on it. but we could make that happen. We have the ability and the power to do that. We just need to do it, and we need the leadership of our pastors to do it. And that's why the focus is on pastors. Please come. Please walk away with the pamphlets that tell you everything you can and you can't do from your pulpit. Came out of Southern California, a great little pamphlet. Whoever comes, you can take one of those, take it back to your pastor, but make sure they understand. You read it. We need to educate ourselves. We need to do it in our home groups, in our Bible studies, in our Sunday school classes, and call our 17-year-olds who will be 18 before the primary or the general election to make sure they register and they vote and understand what they're voting for.
David, a midterm election can be critical. We saw it in 10. They took back the U.S. House of Representatives. And now with the disdain of this president and his policies, this could be a huge turnover, not only the House, but maybe in the U.S. Senate. But as you're indicating here, in the state of Oregon, it's very doable for us to sneak up and put a Republican in the U.S. Senate.
That is true. That is very true. And I don't think most people even know who the candidates are yet. You have to spend a little time to have freedom and to have freedom for your children and have the liberties that we've had throughout this nation up until the last 15, 20 years. And recently under this administration, you've got to put a little elbow grease in this. You can't just decide that something else is kind of on your list today is going to take precedent over this. The moaning that's coming out of Washington, D.C. by conservatives who know what's happening there. And folks, we're not being told the half of what is happening behind the scenes and what's really being done to us. And the bureaucracies that are growing, the cost of government, there's no intention of taking it back. The only thing that can rein in this government over us is the people. That's it. It's us. And we're the ones who know the principles, know the power of God, know what's right, what's wrong. The wisdom is in the book. And if we will believe in the God of the Bible rather than the gods of this world, there's no power on earth that can stop that. So
that's the essence, Dave. We got about 90 seconds. At the end of the day, we are in the spiritual battle of our country's life. I don't think we've ever seen it magnified as it is today.
Well, and keep speaking it, brother. I mean, come right out and just tell it the way it is and what's happening. And you can quote other people today who are really telling the truth, and Bob Knight is one of them. This lady, Tammy Bruce, I've heard Tammy before speak on Fox, and then she comes out, she's a lesbian, and she comes out and she gives the straightest gouge on this decision out of Arizona that is going to wind up taking our liberties away from us and your rights to speak the truth and to stand for it. If something isn't done by the people, you're going to be sued out of your business. You say one wrong thing, so you're not going to have any freedom of speech anymore. And it's going to wind up in the church as well. And she makes that clear from her perspective, very, very clearly what's being done. And she calls it just a Gestapo. We hate that term, but you need to go read Metaxas' book on Bonhoeffer, and you'll see what's happening in America, just like it happened in Germany.
David, thank you, my friend. Blessings to you, and we'll see you out here Thursday. And I just want to say to our viewers and listeners, talk to your pastor, give him a call. Is he going to come to the meeting, or is she going to come to the meeting on Thursday? If not, could you go and represent your church and come and get this material? David, he gives it away. Folks, he gives this research away. He's absolutely right. He has the slides that he'll give you to use in your church, and they are beautifully done, and they're powerfully written. Thank you, David. We'll see you on Thursday, pal.
Look forward to it, brother.
All right, God bless. All right, David Crowe, president and founder of Restore America. Go to restoreamerica.org, and you'll see everything that he's talking about, and support David and what he does there. restoreamerica.org. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.